Oh, there we go.
Big fella.
Welcome, Jeff. Guys, let me introduce our guest here. So this is Jeff Thompson, otherwise known as Scratchie. He's a well-known fisher across the community. He represents Fish Radar. He's a senior moderator there for many years. He's also an ambassador of Decky as well, just like I am. There you go. He's got the hoodie. I haven't got mine yet. But he's here for a different reason tonight. He's here to talk about snapper fishing in general. But first up, Jeff, how you been? How's your week been, especially since the start of this lockdown? How you holding up, mate?
Yeah, pretty good, thanks, Pete. Good to see you, buddy. Mate, haven't seen you for a while, except for on these podcasts that you do, It's been a few years since we've actually caught up in person, but listening to your listeners there, they're all giving you lots of good advice about not trying to take on Stewie, mate. Obviously,
that's a fair call. That's a fair call, Jeff.
Obviously, being a mentor of both of us, we know how methodical the boy is, and getting a towel in by the man is just an essential part of fishing with him, isn't it? But yeah, anyway, being a part of the lockdown for us, I obviously live up in Port Stephens, and we're not affected by the greater sort of Sydney lockdowns that you guys are enduring down there. So yeah, sorry about that. So our ramps are open, and we can walk freely with some restrictions, I guess. But
that's great. Yeah, so mate, can we go up there and catch the snapper up that way?
Absolutely not, mate. I wish it's good. I guess our town's based on tourists, and that's what supports our economy here. And not having the people up from Sydney and all that's detrimental to it, to be honest.
That's right. So hopefully you're holding up well. Hopefully you're not missing out on too much fishing down here. Of course, the situation is a little bit serious, so yeah, I think we just have to hold on tight for the moment, and hopefully after 2 weeks we can exit that lockdown.
We come out the other side of it. I mean, for me, the only added bonus, right, is that the ramps aren't as busy, and the fishing grounds are obviously more accessible, and less people to go and drive up me drifts, so to speak.
Right. Yeah. Now, speaking about driving up for a drift, so I hear that you're one of your favorite species to target is snapper, and you've been very proactive in improving your snapper fishing. And obviously, over the years, you've learned how to find out a method that works for you. So, like, how would you describe the kinds of fish that you chase and how you would chase snapper, for example? Like for me, everyone knows on my stream that I pretty much chase brim and everything else in the estuaries. Yep. I got my 2 to 4 kilogram gear. I use my light plastics. I'll go for the medium gear once in a while. And just using what I've got, I've come to find that there's a certain style of fishing that I enjoy and that I employ and that works for me. And I guess that's why they're here, that everyone in the chat, avid fishermen as well, all these anglers there. If you were to if I was to ask you what is it about snapper fishing that you like, I've already answered the question, so I'm gonna say snapper fishing. That's what you like to do.
Absolutely. It's snapper fishing, it's like you have your Jew fishermen and your king fishermen and that, and obviously I'm a snapper fisherman. I mean, I fished the waters up here for about 20 years, and I really enjoyed the thrill of the hunt, and it's more, I've taken it more to a level where I'm angling rather than just baiting a hook, putting it in the water,
Right.
I'm predominantly a lure fisher, so that's that's an art in itself, and working out tides, currents. There's there's just so many things to try and work out to get that elusive, big snapper, big trophy snapper. So
yeah.
Yeah.
So, yep. Keep going.
Sorry. So, like over the years, I've, worked on a million different things on, where I cast, what, how long leader length, for example, you know what I mean? When to use what jig head in what current, the way to be able to read the sounder and where the bait's holding in the structure, and does that repeat itself in, different areas, and, but
Right.
yeah, but predominantly I fish anywhere in Port Stephens, but predominantly specialise in Broughton Island.
Right. Okay. Let's get this concept going. So let's say that I want to target snapper right now. I've got access
Yep,
to a boat.
yep,
I have an area in my mind close to me. Let's say it's Bellambi,
yep,
since it's a bit closer to me than Port Stephens.
sure.
I've got the gear, but I don't
Yep.
know what I'm bringing with me. Where do I start?
So where do you start? So for me, so if you're on a boat, you're looking at a 7 foot rod, a 4,000 reel, 20 pound braid, 20 pound leader. I have no real preferences. Do you know what I mean? Like in terms of, whether it's Daiwa, Shimano, whether this or that, whatever works, whatever works. I heard you talking earlier about, using expensive gear and stuff like that. And for me, most of my snappers caught on the cheapest combo that you could buy from BCF,
There you
so
go.
to speak. So yeah, there you go. So that's the sort of rod setup that I'll be looking to take. Depending on the depth of the water, I would vary my jig head size. I'd still use that same setup, but I, I'd vary the jig head size. So as a rule, between 6 and 20 meters, I'll use a 1/4 ounce jig head. That can also depend on current. And then say between 20 and 35 meters, I'll step it up to a 3/8. Anything over that, I generally don't fish. I'm more predominantly
Right.
inshore reefs fisher. Yeah.
So how would you consider those depths? So 6 meters, you'd consider shallow water fishing for snapper and
Oh,
heading
100%.
towards.
Yeah, yeah.
Would
So
you? Would you?
so
T-
six
yep.
to 6 to 20 meters. I think I forget the exact sink rate of a 1/4 ounce jig head, but you can sometimes, depending on the current, I'll even drop it down to a 1/6. But I'll use that in a 5/0 or a 6/0 size.
Right. So
Yeah,
that
and
size hook is, so we're talking with a 50, 60, we're talking big snapper here. We're talking 60 to 90,
yeah, yeah.
70 to 90,
Yeah, I'm not looking for the port hacking sort of little pinky snapper.
29.999
Yeah,
centimeter
yeah, that's
snap. Everyone
exactly
knows about
right.
that in
Yeah,
Sydney.
exactly. Like I'm talking, like models over 70, 80 centimeters, trying to land one of them donkeys in, 6 to 10 meters of water is not something that you do every day. And, I've been fortunate enough to land my fair share anyway.
Right. Now, well, I'm going to cut to a question from N Brownie first. So,
Sure.
guys, if you got questions, drop it in the chat. Any comments at all? This is a live stream podcast, so you guys can ask questions and get answered right away. We got the expert here, so
Oh, don't
he's
call me an expert,
he's
Pete. I'm not an expert. I've just spent a lot of time doing it. That's all.
all right. Disclaimer: I'm not an
Yeah,
expert. He's not an expert, but we love our fishing. We're really engaged anglers in our
yeah,
craft.
yeah,
Just
exactly.
sharing our experiences, guys. So, if you guys got
Yeah,
anything, any
100%.
comments at all? We're all in this community, so yeah, just drop down your questions.
Okay, so the question you got there from M Brownie, are we talking drop offs? Yeah, we certainly are. So basically, snapper are prolific along the east coast of New South Wales, or down to Victoria and sort of up to Queensland. Anywhere there's a steep rise or pinnacle, you'll generally find snapper. Where there's a good reef system, where there's a continual flow of currents and bait and that. The drop-off areas is predominantly what I target. So I'll be looking for bait that's sitting either up the top of that pinnacle or on that steep face, and they're generally the areas that I work.
Right. Yeah. So let's just further elaborate on this. So drop-offs would be you're looking on the sounder for maybe something like like a 5 meter change in maybe a
Yeah,
space of a couple of meters.
so a lot of people use their sounder, and when you look for the navionics, and you'll see where the lines are very close together. So what that tells you that there's a steep drop in the face, and then it'll come in maybe to a sandy area or stuff like that. So what I find is the snapper work them edges, waiting for the bait to drop over that pinnacle, and
Right.
that's where you'll generally find them lurking. So it's not a fluke where you travel through like a 20-meter area and it's a dead zone, and then all of a sudden you see a pinnacle come up, and then you start to see bait there, because that's where they like to congregate. They like to congregate, on them faces, on the top of the reef, and in channels and stuff like that. So yeah.
Right. I think at this stage maybe we should play a clip to show what you mean by that. We'll watch it first, and then maybe you can walk us through it.
All right. No, the good old dolphins.
So what's happening here?
So this is where that took me a fair while to get a good wind on this thing. It was absolutely giving me some curry, and I think it was the first fish of the day too. So you can see by the sky in there, it was early morning, and it just didn't want to give me anything. And this wasn't a massive fish, but it was very tall and very well conditioned, and you can see there by the sounder, we're only in 14 metres of water.
14 meters down there, yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of bait present.
That's a nice one there. How big was this one?
That was only about 75, I think.
Only 75.
Like
I'd be happy with that.
Back at him, baby.
So yeah,
that a fish.
Yeah, so that wasn't too bad. That was around about the same thing. But yeah, but as you can see, so right then, I can't remember the exact tide, but you could see it was early morning. There was a tide change within the next hour, and you could see the bait sitting up higher in the water column. So when you go to that sounder image, you can see the bait.
Now I'm going to see if I can just.
So if you can see how the bait's sitting up higher in the water column. So what you're looking to do there is
that's like from midway and towards the top. I can see that band. Yeah. That's generally what I look for.
Okay, so and then you can see down the bottom, you can see the rocky images down the bottom. So that tells me that I'm on a reef. You can see the bait.
That's the broken bottom there. So all that red, that red coloration means you're looking at solid rock, basically.
Yes, but if you look at the bait too, you can see the red and orangeness in it. So that means that the bait's a lot more balled up. Generally, when you go to the mid-tide, you'll see that the bait's a lot more scattered. So that image, when I look at a sounder, that's exactly what I'm looking for, to try and find, marks either sitting below them, above them, or around that area. So So my method is to drift the area. I have an intended target. I'll drift the area, and I'll cast as far ahead of the boat as I can, and hopefully, the bait's in front of the boat, because snapper are a very spooky species, and they'll spook really easy. So if you were to drive over them, pretty much you've ruined that area. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll cast ahead of the boat. Hopefully my lure falls into that school and below the school, and snapper being a predominant species, they'll hit the lure. Keep in mind, you also need to choose the right lure. So with different seasons come different lures, and different areas also depend on what bait's present as to what lure you'll use.
Yes. So before we go on to that, I want to ask you about this image here. So this is that board up bait right there?
That's board up bait. Yep.
So these balls are huge. They're massive.
So these balls are huge, and what you might find is that and then you'll see a break in it, and then you'll see another bald image like that. So what that tells me is they're being predated by a larger species. You know what I
Right.
mean? Because
Right.
otherwise, then you generally get a stream of it. When I fish, I try to always have one eye on the sounder so I can see what's going on, so I can see whether it's worth it to um, stay in that drift or do another one. You know what I mean?
Michael's got a funny comment here. Dude's talking about 70 centimeter snapper. I'll be happy with a Hacko 70 port hacking 7 centimeter snapper. If you want to guess who is bad at fishing, I'm your man, Michael. I think we've all been there. I think
That's
we've
all
all gone to the hacking and come back with our legs, with our tail between our legs, thinking, look, I'll just catch whatever's here for some fun because I got out here with all that effort, all that bait. I've got a smorgasbord, a buffet of bait, and all I can catch are these pesky tiny red brim.
That's it. Well, listen, my advice to this Michael bloke could be keep listening to Shroom's podcast. Jump on and join Fish Raider and ask some questions, and I reckon you'll get a bit further.
That's right. Michael's has always been struggling to catch fish. I think I got to get him sorted at some stage.
That's it, bud. That's your mission. Take him out there.
Now, about this image again. So
Yep.
These are marks that you already know about. You already know the area so that you don't have to go over and say sound out. So for example, if I catch mulloway, like with Stewie,
Yep.
for example, we don't sound anything out. We know they're either going to be there or they're not. And we know from past experiences that we've done it X amount of times. One of us is going to hook up if they're there. And if not, they're not there. So we don't want to add that additional noise. And, so some people believe that the pinging of the transducer will spook them. Do you believe that to be the case?
No, not at all. I've heard Stewie talk about that before, but no, I don't believe so because, results speak for themselves. Every boat that I've been on's got one. Although I've had sessions up there where mine's blacked out for some reason or whatever, and I've still had a good session. So,
right.
I don't, to be honest, I use the sounder and GPS for two things. I don't need to know the depth because I basically know Broughton Island better than my house, and I can tell you how deep we are and where we need to be and where we need to fish around the whole island.
Yep.
So one is just the direction of the drift, and number two is there bait present and where's the bait holding. So
right.
So the area that I fish, like you were saying with the Georges for you and Stewie, I know every reef system that runs across there, what angle it runs, where the drop offs are, where I'm likely to score up on a fish, whatever. I'm just looking to see where the bait is. Is it down low? Is it mid water column? Whereabouts is it? And what side of the face it's holding.
Right.
So what I mean by that is all reef will have a predominant drop somewhere, whether the reef runs east, west, north, south, whatever. So if it's sitting on the southern side of the reef, okay, so then I need to start my drift a bit further south, and then I'll see if that repeats in different areas. So then that will tell me where I'll fish my next few areas because I know where I know where it is.
Right. Now I just thought up of a question. What if I followed every piece of advice, but I made one critical mistake and that was cast behind the drift?
Okay.
How impactful is that?
Okay, so not very. Okay, so because you got a line in the water, you're a chance of a fish. All right, so
right, good.
It doesn't. Okay.
That's what we
so
want to hear, Michael. You hear that? It doesn't matter where you cast.
It doesn't matter. I mean, listen, I know people that's the way they do it. They cast it back. Okay, but for the method of fishing that I do, if you cast in front of the boat, you are casting into sort of virgin ground where the fish haven't seen the boat yet. Okay, so they haven't seen anything. All they're doing is you're hopefully casting into the schools of bait that you're looking
Right.
for. Um, if you cast behind the boat, you are casting. It's like people. Sorry, but it's like people trolling for snapper. You know what I mean? It goes
Yep.
against every principle that I have as a lure fisherman. Do you know what I mean? Because you're actually
Yep.
driving over the intended area looking. Yeah. So but yeah, so if you cast behind it, you know, I mean, fish swim as well. So you know, like you may have one that's just come past into a different current and whatever, but you'll have more success if you cast in front of the boat.
Right. I know at least for mulloway fishing, if you cast behind it, you might as well go home. So it's so
Yeah,
strong, that effect, that if you're
yeah,
not casting at least with the current or parallel or perpendicular to
parallel.
it at the
Yep,
worst, if it's
yep,
dragging, that's it. You're not getting any. You're not getting a look in. You're not getting a look in. You'll catch everything else. You catch all the flatties, trevally, whiting, brim. They'll follow it backwards through the water column, but that mulloway will not. It's
yeah,
that tuned
exactly.
into what it should be expecting to see, being an
Yep,
apex predator, that if it doesn't look right, it's not interested. But you can
yeah,
catch snap, but it greatly reduces your chance.
definitely. I mean, the only time I'd ever fish behind the boat like that was if I was bait fishing. But I'm a
Yep.
lure fisherman. Do you know what I mean? So bait
Fair
fishing,
enough. Yep.
you'd anchor up, but you'd anchor up to do so. So you'd anchor up, you'd burley up, you'd float line, like float line baits out there, and mixing it in with the burley. But I'd
Yep.
still stick by the same principle. I'd anchor on top of the reef where there's a predominant drop in the face, and that's how I'd work it too.
Yep. Now, Matthew's got a question. Matthew says, top 3 lures to snapper and your personal favorite tide conditions chasing them. Now, just to go along with this question here, that video did show a lure. So I'm going to just fast forward to where it was. It was a white
So,
lure from memory. Paying
no,
attention to detail here.
no, it wasn't, mate. He's busted me.
There we
All right,
go.
that one was.
There
That
we
one
go.
was.
We
Okay.
want all the details, Jeff. You can't leave this live
Okay.
stream until we know
Okay.
what that
No
is.
worries. So basically, okay, I have a couple of rules with with lure choice, right? So what I do is I always start out with the lure. So for the day that I last caught my last fish on. Does that make sense?
Superstitious. That's
No,
got
no,
to be
no. It's not. No,
superstition.
no, no. It's
Oh,
not superstition.
it's the last one tied onto your combo and you didn't take it off. So
No.
that ends up being the first one.
No, 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 no. The reason for that is because that's what I was successful
Isn't
on,
that
right?
right, chat? I think that's the reason.
No, no, no,
If you guys think
no,
that's
no.
the
Because
case,
well, if you
drop a thumbs up and a wink. We know.
no, because if you well, okay, well, if I did that, I'd have a shriveled up thing because it's a gulp, so I'd
Oh,
never
okay. There you
leave it.
go. You've told us what this lure is.
There
So
you
this
go.
one's a gulp. A gulp
Okay, so
jerk shad.
this is a Galt White, yeah, 7 inch
Yep.
jerk shad. Okay, so for the Port Stephens area, I'll mainly use jerk shads because that's the type of bait that's present. Now I've tried grub tails, I've tried so many different lures, and I found that I'm more successful with the shad than anything. Okay,
What was that white
so
one for Port Stephens? Let me write that down.
yeah, yeah, 7. Okay, so to be honest, I'll be 100% honest with you, Pete, and I wouldn't be with many other people. But no, the
Carry on.
I've been casting that for the last 4 months, and maybe even 6 months, and even one of my mates, we picked up a Spanish mackerel up the island on that. So
Wow.
yeah, an 8 kilo Spanish mackerel. That was a day and a half. That was doubles on kings, doubles on snappers, and then a Spanish mackerel, a couple of mac tuna in the mix. It was a pretty insane day, and we were wrapped up by 10 in the morning. But that one
Yep.
there, yeah. So we used so I've been using that heaps, and then I think we did 2 outings where we used it for kind of half the day, and it never worked. And then we switched it over. So in the first video you see a yakka snack lure.
Right.
That's a gulp yakka snack, and yeah, at the moment that's what they're hitting. So
Right. So
Yeah.
that's word on the street. The whites to go, guys. If you head
So
up
my
to Port
top, so my
Stephens.
top three, so my top three would be a 7-inch white gulp, 7-inch yakka snack, and then one that Berkeley have discontinued. And if anyone can find them, please send them to me. It's called a garlicker, a 7-inch garlicker.
Garlica. Okay.
Yeah.
What color is that? I might have to hold on
So
to
it's
some if
a so
I.
it's a green and black. It's a green and black speckled one, and it it's just a natural tone looking lure, and it's to me it sort of resembles not actually a garfish, but more a slimy.
Right.
And yeah, the success I've had on that is like I don't think I've ever caught a snapper under 50 centimeters on one. So
Wow.
they just catch big fish.
I
Like
need to get my hands
seriously.
on those, but like you said,
Yeah, good.
discontinued.
Yeah, from what I
Berkeley
understand,
make
they're
great lures.
discontinued.
That
Oh,
there's another one that's discontinued that I wish they continue making. I don't. They're not. Or if I don't know if they're listening in, but the one that Stewie and I like for Mulloway, the Berkeley
yep,
Power Bait 5-inch jerk
yep.
shad, the one that stinks like anything.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I mean, they're more of a bait lure than they are a lure, like a plastic rubber lure, you know. I
Yeah.
do like my Z-Mans too. So depending on the time of year, so like around now where you'll get Taylor attacking the lures early morning, I'll switch to a Z-Man
Right.
in similar colours and and that. And I find that, they're a bit more robust and last the test of time. So,
Right.
but yeah, yeah,
So
but
you're not of the school of thought that you should be using bright colors early. So I know that you've just told us that you've just got the last one tied on. Wink, wink. We know why. But
no,
if
it's
you
not
had to rig
wink,
up
wink.
fresh, you still wouldn't go bright colors. You'd go
No, so
white.
so 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 it depends on the season. So generally, so when I start seeing, say, cuttlefish huffs, for instance, start appearing in the water as you travel and this and that, I'll go with the whites, the whiter, lighter colours. If they're not working, then I'll switch to more the natural tone sort of thing,
Yep.
the more natural tone colours, you know.
Yep.
But yeah, I've got it, and then when you've got that day where nothing works at all, you grab the most absolute weirdest lure in your box and you throw it on, and you're generally successful with that.
Yeah. True. Now, how
Yeah,
heavy is this jig head here? It looks like about a quarter ounce.
that's a quarter ounce. That's
Yeah.
a
See,
quarter ounce.
guys,
So as
my
I
eyes are
said,
good when it comes to weighing through the computer monitor.
mate, you've done well there. I mean, as I said, for most part, I predominantly chase snapper in sort of 20 meters of water. So a quarter ounce jig head is absolutely perfect for that. The only time that I'd change that combination would be sorry, I was reading what Michael wrote
Yeah, I'll read this one out.
there.
Michael says
Yeah,
nothing smaller than 50-centimeter snapper on that lure. ... Skeptical. Bet my left nut. I would still get a donut. Ah, well, Michael, we have to have a bit more faith
yeah.
here.
That's it. Well, you need to
That's a
listen
good
to the
comment, though.
podcast a bit more and listen to the tips and techniques, and you might become successful. Um, I also seen that there was Donna from Fish Raider on there. She's an absolute legend, one of my mentors. I'm sure she's one of yours, Pete. And we can't do this
She is.
podcast. The growth that you and I have endured, from her experience, yeah, got to give her a shout out too. That's for sure.
That's right. I've been showing her messages in between your explanations.
Have you?
Yeah.
Okay, no worries.
Now, weather. Good
Weather.
weather, bad weather. Like I'm
Okay.
of the school of thought that the worse the weather is, the more bumpier it is, the more likely you're gonna find the big models. You're gonna strike it lucky. Is that true or?
You know what? Yeah, I mean, my ideal sort of weather conditions is probably a 1.3 meter swirl with a nice the area that I fish with a 6 to 8 knot westerly wind. That's
That
probably
sounds very
ideal.
pleasant. That sounds
No,
very pleasant.
well, it does, but it just provides enough chop and enough sort of for the area that I fish, which is just perfect for the reef system that I fish.
Yep.
So there's enough chop on the water, enough bounce, enough wind to get them good long casts in. Um,
Yep.
it'll provide the perfect drift. So the ideal drift for me is between sort of point 0.8 to 1 knot.
Yep.
That'll also get you a good long cast in.
Jeff, I got a question from Ron here. He says,
Sure.
would you burley up the area? Would you burley up the area before sending a soft plastic in?
Okay, Ron. No, because I wouldn't drive up. I'd never drive over the area that I intend to fish. So I know a few soft plastics people that will say drift with a burley bag behind them because they intend to drift that area, say, multiple times. So yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, action creates action, but I'd never ever drive over my drift just just to burley it up. Yeah, if you're fishing soft plastics, no.
Plus, you're on the move as well, so it doesn't make sense to wait for the burley to kick in, do one or two drifts, find there's no fish, and move on around the other side of the island, for example.
Exactly, I'll move to another area. Although I have done it, in the past. So
Yep.
I've done it, and it worked out okay. But was that because I was just casting in the right areas, or was that because I burled up? I probably
Oh,
haven't done
gotcha.
that.
Yep.
I probably haven't done enough research with that method to say yes or no.
Right. Now, here's one relating to the drift. Gianluca says, would you use a min coder for snapper fishing to control your drift or spot lock? Okay, so we're gonna rule out spot lock because we're not stationary on the drift. Is
That's
there a
right.
way to?
So we're going to rule out the spotlight. Okay, so back in December, I think it was, I got a snapper well into the 80s, and we had to use the Minn Kota on the boat because the winds were variable, and the current wasn't the direction for the wind that we had, and the wind was constantly changing. So we were getting sort of swirling winds. So we were basically just doing a circle on ourselves. And when you drift fishing, you want to cover as much ground as you can. Um, so in that instance, the Minn Kota works. But what I also find is sometimes people that have Minn Kota on their boats, they overuse them. You want to allow the natural drift there. You want, having that extra propeller in the water, maybe something to put the fish off a little bit more. But they do
Yep.
have their advantages, especially if you want to fish the washers and you're able to hold yourself within that. Being able to work around the edges, and for me, it all depends on the wind and where the currents are to what what I utilize and what tools I use. Yeah,
From my experiences, the Minn Kota has been useful for basically just refining the position of the boat after the motor's turned off. So, for example, wind is usually the big issue when you're dropping or casting ahead. You want to kind of place the boat in a direction you're casting off the,
that's
like
correct.
in a favorable position with the bow and the line. Like that's, I guess that
Yeah,
applies to a snapper as well.
yeah, definitely. So, um, and an inexperienced person using them in Coda too can either obviously take you a lot quicker along a drift, or you cast out and then all of a sudden they're hooked to the left, so all of a sudden the cast that you just put in becomes void because it's totally against the direction of the boat that's traveling. Um, that's where I think the overuse of them comes in. I think, for the fishing that I do anyway, but they definitely have their uses. I mean, the ability to be able to spot lock on a bait school and drop down and collect bait
Yep.
without having to drop anchor and then disengage it and move on. That's priceless, you know.
That's right.
But
Especially
in
if it's
terms
really
of
deep.
exactly, but in terms of snapper fishing, I'd give their use a probably 3 out of 10.
Okay. You could
Yeah,
do without it. There's more important pieces to the
I,
puzzle.
I don't have one on my boat, and I'm still successful at what I do. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, like you said, weather doesn't make you prefer more mild conditions. Here's one of you in bad conditions, I think it is. Or at least I
Yeah,
managed to put together some clips for the
yeah,
viewers here.
there was a bit of precipitation there, Pete.
That's quite a bit of rain, Jeffro.
That's yeah, that was absolutely pelting down. And that was a cracking day there. That was actually Good Friday. What you're looking at there.
Right,
I
Good
think
Friday fish.
we
Perfect.
nailed. I
Perfect.
think so. We got out. I got out with my nephew, and I think we nailed 5 or 6 snapper over the 70 mark.
Thick and fast.
Before 8 o'clock, and we were back at the ramp by 8:30.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
a
keep
cracking
going.
one.
I'll play that once again. That was a very good clip. I'll just play
That's
that.
all right. And as you see with this footage here, we're actually collecting bait there at the moment. So
right, really?
Yeah,
Just right
so I'm
there.
standing underneath the binamy, and I sent my son out to collect the bait.
Earning his stripes. Earning his stripes right there.
Absolutely, I mean, every day can't be like that. I actually knew that day we were going to cop some rain, but I wasn't expecting that heavy. Like we had that for a good 10 minutes solid. Like I had the bilge pump running full time, and then we had a bit more of that heading up to the island. So
Gosh.
that's a
Did you
bait
have to
station that
reach
we're
for the
collecting
bucket
bait.
at any stage?
And then, what's that? No, it's all right. I've got an auto bilge pump, so it's fine. But then, well, it was funny when we hit our mark that day. Like we were getting stretched left, right, and centre. I think we ended up with four or five really good snapper. But that day the Mac tuna played havoc. There was so many Mac tuna, and I mean, and I'm not talking like 2 to 3 kilo. I'm talking these things were 8 to 10 kilos, pulling on snapper gear, and I'm getting a bit too old for that. So yeah, so I'll
I
let the
love a
kids
bit of
have a
that
bit of
action.
fun.
8 to 10. That's a good day
Oh,
out.
yeah, no, they're pests.
Oh, I got an eddy, guys.
They were in
thick and fast.
plague proportions this year, the Mac tuna, and yeah, and it was a bit disappointing because sometimes you think you got a personal best snapper on, and it ends up being a Mac tuna. Very disappointing.
How big is this one?
That one there, that was about 74, 75, I think.
Quality.
Something like
And
that.
another white plastic as well. So another gulp.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there we go.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if you
There
look
we go,
through,
guys.
yeah, if you look through some of my Instagram photos, I try to leave the plastics in there, and like what I do with Schrader, I only ever post something um, that I catch on that day and write a report on that day of it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Rather than post it weeks later or do this or that. And so that can give people an idea of if they're going out, what they can use, or what plastics to use, or yeah.
Now, Michael's got a question here. He says, once you drive over the area, how long is it out of action for?
Okay, good question, Michael. Okay, so the way I sort of reference it, it'd be 45 minutes to an hour. So the way I drift, I'll have an attended target. So I'll have an attended target, and what I'll do is I'll start out about 100 meters before that target, and I'll drift over it, and then I'll continue to go until either I don't see any bait, or I've drifted off the reef. Then what I'll do is I'll make a huge circle around that, and then I'll start my drift out from the same mark that I started the first one, but 30 meters wider, 20 to 30 meters wider. Then I'll drift that out. If I catch a fish on that drift or get a good bite, I might drift I might do it again. Generally, as a rule, I'll do 3 drifts in one area,
Right.
and then I'll start the other side of the first drift I did. Okay, and what this does, generally, a drift takes 15 minutes. This gives you the ability to work a small area for a much longer time if you start out your drift 20, 30 meters away from it. So if you think you do 4 drifts in the area, by the time you come back to the first drifted area, you haven't been there for an hour.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so that's the way I wish I do it, because a lot of the reef system that I fish up here, some of it's only small area, but it's very productive. So what I want to do is, just make sure I don't drive over that area, drive around it. So if you see any plastics fisho casting ahead of the boat, please take a wide berth of them. There's nothing worse than someone driving up over your drift.
Fair enough.
They
It
might as well
reminds
just-
me of that time that I was at Browns and we were drifting. Same kind of style. Take a wide circle to the start point and just drift over. It takes 15 to half an hour.
Yeah, but the difference with Browns, I've done it a few times. The difference with Browns, you're fishing 400, 450 meters of water.
That's right. And people are driving their boats everywhere.
That's right. Well, I'm drifting 6 to 20 meters of water. So it's total different scenario. But I mean, just one way of putting it, how many on all your social medias that you go on, how many spear fishermen do you see holding up good snapper? Not many,
Well,
right?
not many.
But the reason for that, because they spook really easy. You know what I mean?
Right.
They
That
spook
makes
really
sense.
easy, right? So, and yes, you'll get the odd one or two, but you don't see it all the time. Unlike kingfish, where they school around and they'll just keep swimming because they don't care, because they know they're quicker than everything, but they're more vulnerable to a spear fisherman because they're not so worried about that. And that's the elusive chase of a snapper. They are like a jewfish where, trying to trick a 90 centimeter snapper into taking a lure, in 10 meters of water is heart and mouth stuff, that's for sure.
Yeah. Now, I have a question. So, how do we work these lures? What's the most productive technique that you have?
Yeah, sure. So it's funny, but I've taken out and I've given a lot of people tuition on how to do it, and basically, there's not a lot to it. So what I do, as I said before, you've got your intended drift, you've got the wind coming behind you, big long cast, and that's it. And then what you do is, as far as technique goes, is all that you need to do. The drift and the current will decide how slowly or fast you wind in the excess line. So you basically just don't want a spaghetti effect on the line, and just allow the lure to work the entire water column. So
Right.
so once it's worked to the water column towards the bottom, you just give it a big long loop, because snapper will predominantly take the lure on the drop. Give it a loop back, or every now and then I give it a twitch. I may give it a twitch on the first cast, sort of when I think it's about mid water column, and then I'll just slowly wind it in. But I'll be pointing the rod at the line the entire time, so that way if I do feel a touch on the line or I do feel a strike, then I'm able to strike that rod a lot harder, because obviously with snapper, they've got really bony mouths and you really want to set that hook. I mean, if you have a look at the photo that you got there, you can see how much you wanted that lure.
Oh, yeah, that's down deep.
Yeah, that's the lure is, but the hook's perfectly in the top part of it. You think a 7-inch lure like that, a 90 centimeter snapper will engulf that like it was a McDonald's chip, and so you really want to pull as hard. Strike hard. Sometimes I'll strike up to 3 times really hard, and just to get it from its stomach or behind its gills into that mouth. Yeah,
I guess it's kind of like brim, where you need to get that first hook set because their mouths are quite bony, but because they don't really open their mouths very much, very wide. Once it's in there,
No.
it's pretty much going to stay in.
That's right. Yeah, so with snapper can be finicky too. You know, like they sometimes they're in aggressive mode where they just want whatever you throw at them, and then other times they're very finicky where they'll just come up. They generally come up underneath it actually, and will just hold the lure and swim off with it rather than engage in destroying it. So, and when they do that, that's really frustrating because sometimes they'll grab the lure and swim towards you, and as you wind as fast as you can, they'll just open their mouths and let it go. So yeah.
Guys, do you have any more questions about kingfish?
Kingfish.
Snapper. My mind's all over the place.
That's all right, buddy.
Guys, drop your questions down in the comment section if you have any more questions about snapper fishing in particular. I'm gonna kind of cut to some different clips about kingfish for now. Just to we want to get to know you a little bit, Jeff. You know, we want to get to know you a little bit, Jeff. So I've got a clip here.
Snapper.
I got a clip here, so I'm gonna roll it now.
All I got on's a hook, just a plain hook. Let's drop it down, boys. Yep. Oh, fuck. Get out.
Oh, sorry, the language. That's not done.
Oh, he's gonna get me.
That's all right, Jeff. Whoops, that was not supposed to happen. That was a technical difficulty. All right, so what was the story behind that, Jeff? That was
okay.
From what I saw, you kind of showed the hook, threw it in within like 3 seconds. You're on to something.
So that was a day going back. I know it was the 20th. 20th of January. I think it was 2019, 2018. I can't remember, but basically, me and my kids found that an experiment between Huon Industries and the DPI in Port Stephens. One of the kingfish pens had busted open, and there was some rogue
and you were first on the spot.
going on. Yeah, pretty much. Well, I fished the area as much as I can, and what we found was they were taking a liking to anything shiny in the water, and considering there was 20,000 of them, they were absolutely destroying it. So there was no need for bait. There was no need for lures. We just threw in my son goes, oh, well, I'll try this, and I'll just throw a hook in. And I reckon that's the fastest hook up to a kingfish you'll ever see in your life.
I think this is something I just got to replay. What do you reckon, guys?
Yeah. Beautiful hook, Stephen.
All I got on's a hook, just a plain hook. Let's drop it down, boys.
3, 2, 1, bang.
And
Fuck, get out.
and these kingfish, they weren't like 55 centimeter kingfish. They were 70. I think we weighed them, measured them out. They were about 72 centimeters, but they were pushing 5, 6, 7 kilos. Some of them. That's how well conditioned they were.
Wow.
Yeah. For that size fish, and what was weird was the actual when we got them back to fillet them and that their internal structure was totally different to a normal kingfish, based on their feeding habits and that. They when you gutted them, they were just full of fat. Like they were like a 2-year-old being fed till 10 years old at McDonald's. That was incredible, and and as the weeks, I think we were able to fish that for about a week. What we found was that it actually wasn't necessarily the hook that was the attractant for the fish. What do you think it was, Pete?
I'm assuming it's the fact that boats are pulling up.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, sort of. It was actually the motor. So you can hear the motor running in the clip. And so what would happen was when they'd send the boats out to feed them, that was they would
The
use
sound that they were
like
hearing, that was the alarm
that's
bell.
the sound.
Oh, I
Because
got you.
if
Yeah.
we turned the boat off and drifted, they'd disappear.
Right.
So what we found, if I just kept that little two-stroke going, then they'd mull around the boat, and yeah, there was heaps of them. I think you've actually got another clip there where there was where they attacked. I'm not sure if you picked that up or not, but where there was like probably 200 to 300 of them attacking the boat.
Yeah. I've got another clip. Guys, I've got some more clips, so we'll play the next one.
Good view.
Okay, guys, this is going to be the Port Stephens Kingfish versus Chewy Gum Challenge. We'll see if they like chewed up or just the normal chewy. Here we go.
Here's our younger there, Pete.
And he's throwing some out on his.
So Junior's going to come up tight.
We're on.
Yeah.
Are we on? They didn't take the chewy?
I think they like the chewed up chewing gum,
They
yeah.
like the chewed up chewy. Oh, there we go.
There we go.
There we
Yep,
go.
There we go. Kingy on chewing gum. Woohoo!
Yeah, it was a bit of fun. It was a good day.
I'll tell you what, that's just amazing. That
Yeah, it is. It was an amazing sight, as I said. You know, like to see that many there, and you know, yeah, it was an incredible sight. Actually, I've got a couple other videos there, but you'll see one where I flagged down these people coming past, and they go, "No, you're right. You're in trouble." I said, "No, look down." I said, "Look down," and they looked down and seen all these kingfish. So they were into it too. So it was pretty cool.
so
Yeah,
you're
it was a
making
good
such
day.
a loud ruckus. They thought you were in trouble, but really you're just shouting, "Oh my God, the
Yeah,
kings!"
come here, get into it. We'd already bagged out, and then we went up to the island and caught a few snapper. It was a real good day. Actually, I was actually meant to spend the night with the boys up the island, and by the time we finished our snapper session, we had no room in the kill tank, the eskies, or anywhere, so we had to come home. So
Yeah.
it was a good day.
These clips would make really good tourism Port Stephens clips, you know, if you played that.
Yeah.
It would boost the industry straight away.
The fishing, yeah. One of my mates, Rod, took that dolphin one that you can see there. We spent a night up at Broughton Island filming for Decky, which your hat and my shirt, buddy, and yeah,
Yep.
doing a bit of filming and photography, and that was the escort we got on the way back, mate. So it was all good.
Fantastic. Now, before I keep going with those clips, we have quite a few questions now about snapper again. So let's
Yeah, sure, fire away.
let's yeah, I mean that was the point of the podcast, but guys, hope you're enjoying the show. Just you know, just good to get the community together, enjoy a night talking about fishing, watch some clips. Hope you guys enjoy this. This is the first time I've done this. I wasn't sure how the technical aspect of it was going to come out, you know, with the guests and all that. So if you enjoy this, make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell, hit like on the video if you're enjoying it. And if you're going to miss out on the live show, it's on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify probably tomorrow. So this will be up then. But to catch the visual aspect, still up here on YouTube. Okay, now Ryan Luck says, any land-based snapper fishing tips? Times, tides, tackle, rigs. Now that's probably a really in-depth question, but let's just be general. Maybe Ryan is just wanting to know some general tips on how to go about it for someone that lives, you know, right up in Metro Sydney.
Sure. Leave that up so I can read it. But yeah, so you know, I mean, for me, any time you can get out where the line's a good time. You know, you're more of a chance to catch something. You got a line in the water than not. Tides. Being land-based, generally that last part of the incoming tide or a high tide, especially for snapper, they do like a lot more water. The first part of that outgoing tide, where they're looking for anything that's been washed off the rocks or, you know, been sucked out from that close area. Tackle, always go as light as possible. Light as you can go to the terrain. So for the area I live in, my personal best snappers are 72 off the rocks. It was only in about 6 meters of water. That
Right.
was it was early morning. I used pilchard for bait. I did burley the area, really small piece sinker. And
Here's a question. Here's a question.
yep,
Now, let's say that I've got two situations. I can fish tomorrow, and tomorrow first light, the tide's not ideal. It's
yep,
mid run out off the rocks. Or second, I've got and assuming it's a safe spot, there's no danger from swell or anything like that.
yep.
And the second is I'm going to be fishing gentleman hours at 11, so probably 3-4 hours past sunrise, maybe 10. Let's say 10.
Yep.
10.
With a good
And
tide.
I'm going to get the best tide possible with the top coming in about half an hour from when I arrive at the spot, and it's a pretty big tide. Which situation's better?
I'm going the early morning every day.
Right.
So you're talking about an incoming tide. Do you know what I mean? Like incoming tide bill. Snapper generally inhabit the reefs. That's why you always see a better bite early morning, late afternoon. With snapper fishing during the day. For some reason, they sort of disappear off the reefs a bit more.
Yep.
And so being shore based or land based, you know what I mean? You want to work them early morning and late afternoon tides. So where it coincides with the high tides, probably the best. If you can get an hour either side of that, that's what you'd be looking for.
Yep.
Yeah.
And when it comes to areas, of course, down in Sydney, we generally only get the quality snapper, say in the harbour, from about the Harbour Bridge and east. Generally, they don't really come up the system, the large ones, from what I've seen. I've not seen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, there may be some exceptional circumstances where someone has landed maybe like a 5 kilo plus inside, really far inside. I don't think that's generally the case. Every couple of months I do. Sorry?
Nothing. Was his name Yowie in Port Hacking? No?
Well, port hacking, I would say the port hacking system is a little bit different. You get them all the way through.
Yep.
And you can get pan sized, and if you're starting to hit towards, some of the bommies around, out towards the, Cronulla and all that.
Yep.
You've got plenty of options there.
Yep.
And George's River, I would say that I haven't really heard of any quality catches inside of the. I mean, I'm not even sure if you can get them like inside of the river. I mean, the biggest I've caught is probably a 45, 50, and that I've never seen a snapper that big, and that was halfway up towards Picnic Point almost, but I haven't really heard about that.
Yeah. So in Port Stephens, our bay area is 2.5 times the size of Sydney Harbour. So it's it's massive. So whilst we do get huge snapper, fairly often throughout the bay, it's not generally something you could go and target on a daily basis.
Yep.
Yeah.
Fishing, crabbing, Yabbing's got a question about those kings. So did those kings end up doing any damage like the DPI said they would, or no? Never really followed up after the original breakout.
Okay, so I know that the kingfish that were in them pens were from the brood stock of the local kingfish anyway. So in terms of sort of the environmental impact with species, they were modified from the area, or they were brewed from the genetic stock that existed anyway. So in terms of that, no, not really. Have I seen more kingfish turn up?
Have you tried turning on your motor?
Yes and no. Yes and no. They're not following me boat anymore, but I can tell you what. Between me and me mate Rob, we've copped a fair few dustings in the last couple of weeks. So, but no. don't think it had much impact. All the nets have been removed now. All the markers and that have been removed, so it's all good.
Yeah, right. Now, I've got a little bit more to this clip, so let me just continue rolling it.
Here we go.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Watch the prop. Watch the. This
Wow,
is
what a
they call
sight.
Kingy Mayhem in Port Stephens.
Geez, the boys
Get
were a
in
lot younger then. Hey, Donna.
We're in neutral.
Yeah.
Look at that, they're just right there in front.
So if
See
you look
that
at the young
school?
fella there,
Come on, mate.
I put a stick
yeah, but
bait
he's
on
got
that
two
with
on.
2 lots of trebles, and he's actually got 2 of them on.
He's getting railed.
Wow.
That boy's getting railed. Look,
For a
he's got
double.
2. Watch his.
Yeah. Here we go. So the other fella, so the eldest there, he had one on the 4,000 reel, and that was I think a 6,000 reel that the young fella had there. He actually had 2 decent kingies on that. Yeah,
We'll play
it
that
was
once again. That was a good clip.
It was a
Now
cracking
you were
day.
just
Yeah, so as you say, so that was not long after we caught that one with just the hook, and you can see them as soon as I started the motor, right? So
Yeah.
we drifted the area for a
Watch
bit.
the prop.
As soon as I started the motor, they just come towards the boat.
This is
It
what
was
they call
incredible.
Kingy Mayhem in Port Stephens.
Yeah,
On
Get in
unbelievable.
there.
What's that?
On for young and old, that.
On for young and you know what?
Michael, I think you'll catch a fish here if you're still here.
Yeah.
Neutral.
I can tell you now, I think I only wound 2 fish that day. We took our fed limit, and
but he's got 2
I
on.
just let the boys catch them. You know,
Yeah.
He's
That's a
getting
good day out.
railed.
Yeah,
That boy's
100.
getting railed.
Yeah,
Look, he's
definitely.
got 2. Watch his.
Yeah. So yeah, but they're still good anglers, the boys. They're still
Yeah.
pretty dedicated to what they. I think we only went fishing twice today, so
Yeah. Now,
yeah.
do you have any inside word on when the next kingfish pen breakout is gonna happen? Because I want,
No.
I want to pen that in my diary and be ready for that.
Nah, mate, you're gonna have to ask the DPI Human Industries that they've actually removed all the nets and that.
Oh no.
The trial went awry because they didn't have the expectations of the swell height and that we'd have there.
Yep.
They built the nets with the prediction of 11-meter swell height, but I think that bust there, the swell height got to about 8 meters. I think it was.
Wow.
Yeah, it was about. That was located halfway between the island that you're looking at there and Broughton Island.
Yep.
And and with the algae that had grown on the nets, it just couldn't take it no longer. So that's what it
Fair
busted. So yeah.
Too much of a good thing, as they say.
Exactly, mate. It was good until 200 other people cottoned onto it, and then that was all over.
Yeah. Now, Jeff, I really
Yep.
like to extend my gratefulness and my appreciation for coming on the Shroom Live show and telling everyone about your experiences and all your advice. If they wanted to find out more information and find out where you are, what are some of your socials, or where can they find?
Yeah.
What are some of your contact details?
Yeah, sure. So firstly, I'm a senior moderator of Fish Raider, so you can find me there on www.fishraider.com.au. Or my Instagram page, you can follow me there on at team_Scratchie. Happy to give out as much advice as I can, and if I can help someone catch a fish of a lifetime, mate, that's what I'm here for. That's what I enjoy doing. So, thanks for having me on the show, Pete.
I'll write your details down in the description as well. If any of you guys, couldn't quite catch that, I'll put a link up, or I'll type a text up so that you guys can find out where he is.
Cheers,
So
Pete.
thank you very much, Jeff. Really appreciate
No worries,
it,
buddy. Thanks for having me on the show, and mate, you're gonna have to get your butt up here and see what it's like to get the old shroom stretched on one, eh?
Yeah, certainly will. And guys, this is my time up here on the stream tonight as well. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you want to see more of this content, let me know about it, and make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell. You can find me all the social medias from TikTok through to Instagram, Facebook. It's all up on my channel. Yeah, and also shout out to Decky. Check out their safe boating app as well. And yeah, anything else? Yeah, hit like on the video. And guys, new videos every Thursday. You know, my fishing vlogs. I'll see you guys very shortly. And thanks for your support as always. Catch you later.